sound check on myself. See if we can hear me. See here. Let's make sure that we all can hear me. See here. Looks like we can hear me. See here. All right. Welcome to another show. I am Mike Perkins, one half of MVP, one half of Opinions Are Like Podcast, one half of Mike and Vince Perkins. And for this here, I am the whole show. You seen the thumbnail, you saw the title. We're just gonna set this up for everybody. This is called Can Keisha Do It? I went to an to a game party, it's a football, get together, if you will, with the good brother Christian Christian Hutchinson at his crib. He invited, families. It was families there, husband, wife, kids, husband, wife, kids. I think it was like four couples, probably including himself and his wife. Very, very great outing, very, well put together. Hospitality was on 10. I know I thanked him before, but thanking him again because the hospitality was on 12 on a scale of 1 to 5. Really, really good brother. Um, certainly a hard worker, successful in his own right, but very, very well adjusted. The situation that was there, we were kind of looking, and I mean, I observed it immediately, whereas I was kind of looking at the interaction between husband and wife, wife and kids, the dynamics of the men and how that we congregated in one place, the women kind of congregated in another, and the way that everybody's attitude, if there was any attitude, was really that of leisure, comfort. Everybody kind of knew their roles. The women were tending to the kids. The woman of the house, obviously, Christian's wife was very much, tending to the kids. You know, I love kids myself, so every now and again the boys would be around me, and I would do something funny because I have boys myself. So I just every now and again I just check in on kids because especially boys. I have a you know, I got two boys. Like I love roughhousing, joking, or whatever. But for the most part, the women were the ones tending to the kids. The guys enjoyed the game. Very good game. Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan blew them out, so that was always a good thing. But we were kind of observing the situation, and then immediately with me and Christian sort of talked afterwards. Um, he offered a question. You know what I'm saying? And the question is a title question: Could Keisha do it? Can Keisha do it? Can Keisha be in these situations and operate in the same manner without, sort of jacking it up? And what I'm gonna do right now is since I've like kind of set it up and kind of, set the backdrop for what the conversation is gonna be about, I'm gonna bring up the good brother Christian. Let's see here. Let me add him to the stream. And there you go. Christian, what up? Christian, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
What up, though?
What up, Joe? What up, Joe? That's a Detroit thing. If you didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. Yeah, so first of all, go blue. We
Okay,
pulled it out. Everybody's feeling. Everyone's still happy over that game.
man. I've been talking about that game since Saturday, and everybody who put money on Ohio State, I'm hearing they hurting. Their pockets are hurting because the guys put up some really big money and weren't able to kind of like get that back. So certainly, and then the fashion in which they did it, it was a very clean win. No turnovers by McCarthy. Run game was going. Run game came in the last quarter and a half and kind of turned up after the passing game was working good. It's a very, very good game. You know what I'm saying? I very much enjoyed it. But welcome, Christian. Okay, let's go into what sort of brought that question to your head, because immediately after we were there and I text you and thank you again for your hospitality and thank you for having me to come through and telling you that I enjoyed myself. You immediately went to that observation, and we were even talking about it kind of during the
Yeah,
the party. So just give me a background as to what it is that made you come to that question to make
Well,
that.
so like I said, some of the things I say online, I always want to be careful because we all got jobs, right? But
Yes, sir.
the real thing is when you're selecting your spouse, you have to understand the situation you're going to put her in based on the life you want to live. And so whether that's Keisha, Becky, Marisol, Mylene, or whatever it might be, right? Can you put her in a situation where she's going to be an asset to you? And necessarily, it's not going to be the same way every time, or not every woman is going to do it the same way. So guys talk about getting on the page, and it's all very open. It's like generalities, right? But the thing is, what was needed for that situation that we were in on Saturday, right? And
Mhm.
I didn't have to sit over and talk it over with my wife. This what the game plan was, and this, and this, right? We just got the food ready, and people started coming in, and we just started taking care of all of it, started just making it work. Now, of course, we've been married 10 years, we've been together 16, so maybe, we just kind of know how to do this. But this is very important because of the situations that we are putting ourselves in, because of you have to understand all the dynamics of what was going on. You saw kind of some of the things where people were kind of wheeling and dealing a little bit.
Yes,
Like
certainly, certainly.
people were willing and dealing a little bit. To see, whether it was people that I invited or people from the neighborhood that were talking to each other. Because even though we're neighbors, like we're all fairly new to the neighborhood. People have all been there under 5 years, and yeah, a lot of us have young kids, and so now all of our kids are going to elementary school together, basically. So
Hmm.
now, basically, we're stuck with these people for the next 10 to 15 years. These people are going to be in our lives. They live next door, but we all have our own lives in our own right. So the question is, how are you going to leverage? This is part of a social network. You have social networks in everything you have. You have your job, you have your religious organization, or maybe some social organization you have. Then the biggest one you probably have are the people you live around, and in extension, the people that your kids go to school with. That's another social. Those are social networks. The things that can be leveraged, or things that can get you places that you maybe necessarily didn't expect. That's a part of quote unquote networking. Networking isn't necessarily always going out to some event and giving people elevator pitch is what so
Yeah,
that
certainly.
so so to put in perspective, to get to set the table, type people who were there. One person there, the one guy there. So these are all neighbors. This wasn't even necessarily all my neighbors. These are just the people who are actually adjacent to my house, meaning they are either share a lot with me, or they're like right across the street, or they're like literally right across the street. So these are these people. We didn't even go down to like two houses down, or people four houses down. These are literally just the people touching my house. Okay.
Not to cut you off, but I asked that too because I thought that these people were coming from maybe, like the neighborhood in general. These were literally people that were like you could see their house from his house.
Yeah. No, not
That
only did no, these people literally, like, we share a yard, we
Yeah,
shared a yard with them.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is like literally the adjacent people. So yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, these are like the people you live next door to. So one guy is a director at an auto company. He's a director at an auto company. His wife is a doctor. The other guy, he is a plant manager for three plants that are a very large manufacturer. You guys are probably very familiar with their goods. You guys probably use them every day and don't know. This is the guy who runs the plants that make these goods, and people around the world use these products and don't know about it. Um, the other guy has a very very large landscaping company here in Metro Detroit, and you know he has a couple hundred employees. The guy who runs the manufacturing plants, he doesn't own them, but he's a plant manager, like a regional manager for these manufacturing facilities. His wife does supply chain management. So you hear about guys doing trucking and all that stuff. She is in the management who runs the trucking. Okay, so we hear about guys run these Amazon deliveries, or they have a trucking thing. These are the people who schedule the routes, figure out where the loads are going, cut the contracts. These are the people who are doing that sort of stuff. That's what this guy's wife does. And then the people who own the landscaping business, the wife is kind of essentially like the ad. She wears many hats. She stays home, but all the workers come by, and she essentially is, third in command at the business between the guy and his business partner, and then it's the wife. So that's who's there at the house, basically, in terms of my neighbors. And then I have an assortment of my buddies who came by. Mike came by just because he comes to the Manchester meetup here in Detroit we do it at like every third Thursday.
Third
So me and
Monday.
Mike, oh, third Monday, sorry, every third Monday. So that's how me and Mike we talk, and I know he's a sports fan. I'm a sports fan, so that's why I invited him out. So it wasn't because we wanted to do a podcast together or something like that. It was just like we're both sports junkies.
Right,
So
right.
and we had the biggest game of the year coming up. So and we
So
just had met up on Monday. So that's the stage. There's a couple other guys. So that's who's around. That's who these people are. And so how are you going to position yourself in front of these people? Because you don't want to. It sounds bad, but first of all, I don't want to look like a fool, and then you don't want your wife to make you look like a fool, right? And she has to be a good representative for whatever it is that you guys are trying to do. And not only is she a good representative for you, she's going to be a representative of your children too. And that's what actually sparked the conversation with me and Mike. So I'll stop because I've been rambling for a second.
yeah, no problem, no problem. So when you first asked the question, the first thing I was thinking about is that um what you hear women online and in my personal life demand from a spouse or a potential spouse. They demand, the bar is essentially six figures. Um, and how that, because you've said this before, you said it like at least a good, you know, three or four times, and it always resonates with me. Like when women ask for that, you can already tell that they've never been around men who make that kind of money because of how one they're asking, and two, generally speaking, if you make that kind of money, you kind of understand how to move around those kind of men. Thus, you don't really have to request it because you're already kind of there. And then there's another thing that another point that you made about the $75,000. If when a man is making $75,000, that's essentially the threshold for I'm able to provide for a family. You know, um, do all of the necessary things to kind of like keep a woman from a financial and resource standpoint, and then going forward everything else kind of sort of falls in place. But when women are wanting to not work, it's because that you kind of understand that they don't make that kind of money, because why would you give up a $100,000 job or a $75,000 job, even because like the thing that you brought out is that all of these women work, all of them work. You know what I'm saying? There's no I stay at home. I mean, even if you stay at home, you're contributing to the company of which you essentially explain one of the wives that's like logistics essentially or something like that. You know?
So it's the who owns the landscaping business.
Oh, okay, 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 yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's at least the person that like a lot of the workers kind of report to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, she's a contributor. She's not like a stay-at-home wife or anything like that. She's essentially a contributor to the resources and in the whole process. The thing that you always brought out though was that when women want to be stay at home, it's because the money that they're making is not significant enough where it would change anybody's lives. So you're talking about maybe $40,000 or something like that, which is it's not doing anything for their lives, so they're willing to give that up. Whereas, for example, the man who was a director at an auto at one of the big, I mean, I think it's big two now, but but whatever,
Yeah.
one of the, yeah, his wife is a doctor. By the way, she's not gonna be a stay-at-home anything. Her income is significant enough, whereas she probably wants to be working still. So speak to, you know what I'm saying, because the question is, could Keisha do it? Considering what you've heard, come from the Keishas of the world. Um, Give me the could Keisha do it in your estimation, be in that kind of circle, and give me the why or why not.
So she could do it. So first off, again, I'm just making general. Can can she do it? Yes, she can. But the thing is, she has to be able to do it, and she can't let the noise of the peanut gallery dictate her thought process and decisions. Okay, she's don't let people who, frankly, are making between who don't have a husband, or if they do have a husband, they might be bringing in $80,000 a year. try to dictate to what you're doing in a $250,000 $300,000 plus, you know, a year household. You know, I
Mhm.
would say, you know, there might have been the there might have been a couple of people's families there who might be doing 600,000 700,000. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, if you really start digging into it, you know, just because of some different things they have going on. So when you start talking about that, you can't sit there and let people who are outside your house dictate to you what you think your husband should be doing, what you think your husband should be doing. And also on the flip side, men, don't get caught up in, you know, there's some things you should want to maybe obviously make sure that you're doing with your wife, but the thing is you can't let like this outside influences come in and start dictating what's going on, because the thing is you guys have your own plan. If you as the man is setting the tone and the guidance, that should just what you be worried about. That's first thing. Second thing, can Keisha, so that particularly in the black community, can she do it? I think the struggle is, there were so many things that could be potential, basically nuclear bombs where this thing could go sideways, right? So for instance, I'll give you an example, and this is maybe not nice for me to say over the air, but I'll say it. I had a couple buddies who heard that I was having people over. I told them they couldn't come because I knew that I wouldn't want to put them in a position to be around certain people that would make them feel weird. And second of all, I didn't want that to be a reflection on me because it's the first time I had these people in my house. So
Mm.
I had to be, you know, I know you hear people say it and it could sound like, you know, you're trying to be uppity or whatever it is. Not everybody can come with you in all cases. These guys are people I've known since I was in my 20s or teens. They can come around, but just not today. Today's not the day for them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I understood who the group, who the audience was. They can't come today. Okay. I had Thanksgiving dinner. I had 16 people at Thanksgiving dinner, my family. Those people could have came on Thanksgiving Day, no problem, cool, because that's a different environment. The Saturday environment, that was not for them.
Yeah, the thing I told my brother immediately, I was like, one of the first things you said to me, afterwards is that you're so happy I'm a normal guy. Is it like I'm so happy you're a normal guy.
Yeah,
You
I
know
was 90 yeah, I was 90% sure you were normal, but you know, you never know what could happen. Things could go sideways, and I'm like, you
what
know, might have to broom you out the door.
right, right, right. That's funny. That's funny. Nah,
I
but
knew you weren't gonna do it.
right, right, right. Certainly, certainly, certainly. But continue my part.
Yeah. No, no. So in terms of when you talking about what can happen, right? There was a couple of little things which, you know, let's talk about it. You know, I'm black, you're black, we're all black. Listen here, and if you're not, you're gonna find some things out right now. So here's something that happened. So, example, you start talking about these guys. Were any of these guys over 6 foot?
Nobody was looking me in the eye, so no, not at all.
So were any of them 5'10"?
Not even. No, not
All
even.
right,
Except except for the guy, except for the guy that was a little bit younger than me. I think he was a partner. I'm pretty sure he's a partner of yours. I seen him at the minister
yeah,
meetup.
yeah, 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 him, yeah.
Yeah, so he might be 5'11". He's a little bit shorter than me, but yeah, but certainly nobody was. That was another thing I told my brother. I was like, I was at least 6 inches taller than probably everybody there. You know what I mean? But it was like it was noticeable, but it didn't matter at all. I never felt like, honestly, I never felt so irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Oh,
and as far
everyone was everyone talked to you. No one ignored you.
no, 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 no. In the sense of like being the tallest guy, and it's not even being the tallest guy in a room is a conversation piece. It
Hmm.
wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like people were cordial, but
Oh,
generally
they
speaking,
didn't care. Oh, you're saying they
they
didn't care you were tall?
they didn't care at all. They didn't care at all. It was the least of everybody's words. It was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah, you know what I'm saying? All right. And it was nothing. Typically, that's a conversation that happens in black circles. But as you go up, I always noticed it never comes up. I expected it too, though. I expected it. You know what I'm saying? But continue. Nobody was 6 feet, not even 5'10". Go.
All right, that's first thing. Second thing is, I mean, I know I'm pretty, right? I know I'm pretty. But was anybody else there? I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm just a joke.
It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Was anybody there traditionally handsome, or you know what I'm saying? You talk about the guys traditionally
Hmm.
handsome. Probably not. You know what I mean? Most of the, I mean, like a couple of the guys, and hopefully they're not like this guy's talking about us, but like nah, like a couple dudes was losing hair. That conversation came up, the fact that I got all of my hair and I'm 42, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
That
yeah,
came,
yeah,
yeah, that conversation came up, you know what I'm saying? A couple of guys were losing hair. Of course, they were shorter. Nobody was traditionally, nobody was Brad Pitt, you know what I mean? You
yeah,
know, so
yeah,
so of course nobody was traditionally handsome. Nobody was, 6 foot, six pack. There were no six packs there. I mean, maybe me, but not nobody else. Like and then maybe the other guy, the other black guy. I think they had his kids there. Maybe him. Who knows? But like, even if so, it wasn't. It didn't matter. Like, it was irrelevant. There was no need to be 6 foot tall, six figures, six. Whatever. Whatever. That
yeah,
that didn't exist. That bar didn't exist. It was really just productive dudes
yeah,
with women and their kids. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But yeah, continue.
yeah. And the neighborhood, to put in perspective, cheapest house in the neighborhood is probably going for at least 800,000. So, and this is in Metro Detroit, so this isn't like California where that's like a shack. Okay,
Right.
so I'm just putting in perspective like the type of area this is. Um, excuse me. Sorry, I'm drinking just because I got to finish up all the beer we had left over.
Oh man, if you need help, just let me know, man.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So then the next thing is all the women. Were any of the women overweight?
No, not even close. No.
I'm now, mind you, I'll be first one. I'm overweight. I need to lose the weight, and I'm walking 4 to 6 miles every day. I need to lose it. It's probably the biggest personal failing I have going is that I'm not in shape.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
every single one of the women there,
Nah, they
not
were no, not, and look, they didn't strike me as like you know how you can tell some people are into fitness. You know what I
hmm
mean? They didn't strike me as women that were into fitness necessarily, but more so it's just a part of their like regimen or routine that they don't overeat. They don't, you know what I mean? They're not totally into a lot of alcohol or anything that would make you overweight. Like they all like they live the lifestyle that doesn't, make you overeat or make you do any of those things. You know what I
hmm
mean? Maybe they go to the gym, maybe, who knows? But they don't strike me as women who go to the gym just on a consistent basis. They just strike me as women who don't do things that make you overweight and they're active with kids and they're so active that it doesn't really, nothing really happens. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, nobody was overweight at all. Nobody was overweight. No, it wasn't even close.
yeah. So that was next thing. Did so then the next another thing is uh everyone had their kids there. All the
Hmm.
kids are playing together. Now, mind, yes, we all live in the same neighborhood. Our kids all go to school together. But the
Hmm.
thing that kind of prompted the thing was several of the women there. So a couple of my buddies, just so obviously my wife is Chinese. A couple of my buddies, they have children with black women. They saw the boys, right? So all of us have me and all my buddies we all have boys, and the boys are mixed with whatever.
Hmm.
The women who were there, they all saw our boys like, oh, they're so handsome. Okay, offhanded comment, you take that for what it is. Well, just think about what that really means. They have their kids there. Just think about just think about what that means. Like they're putting their kids with our kids. They're already positioning themselves
Hmm.
because when you look at what's happening is, and BGS has talked about this. Look who your kids go to school with. What happens is when you start getting into upper incomes, and look, you know, I'm not a 1 percenter or something like that in terms of annual income. So, but what happens is people, when you start talking to these people, like who they married and where they met them and all that stuff, you talk to them, they met their spouses in college,
Hmm.
whether it was the couple where the guy's the director at the auto company and his wife's a doctor, whoever, they all met their wives in college. The one who didn't meet their wives in college, they met them in high school. They didn't meet in high They met in high school, but through family friends. Okay. So again, they were fairly young. Okay. Now we're all kind of in our late 30s, early 40s. Let's get that straight too. We're all in our late 30s, early 40s. Let's make sure that's clear. So again, people are trying to say, I'm going to make sure my kid gets with the winner, and particularly with the women, they're being told, you get with the winner. That thing of especially for the women, what race he is, I think that there is some bias towards that. But if it's get with the guy who is a winner and he's not the right race, or get with the guy who's kind of and he's your race and culture, they're being trained, no, you go with the winner. And that tells you something about what the mentality is, about how willing they are to do certain things to make sure that their family is successful. Okay, they're not putting these barriers on their daughters. Okay, and the boys, they we already know through human history, boys definitely don't care, because the boys were always sent outside the village, because you don't want intermarrying, because it's going to mess up the, you're going to have birth problems.
Hmm.
So you know it was perfectly normal to send a boy 100 miles away from the village to go get him a wife. That was just like par for the course. But
Right,
what I'm
certainly.
but so what I'm trying to illustrate is that there is, we think about it, is there race? Yes, it's race, but race essentially is a proxy for class. And what people really want is, if they had to choose between, I need to I'm going to put my kid with someone who they grew up around. Because think about all the information they will know about our family. They know what I do. They know what my wife does. They know how I behave. They know how she behaves. They know what I do for a living. They know what she does for a living. They'll be able to watch my sons. Essentially, what these people are doing, whether it's them, their extended family, whoever it might be. Because think about the people you live next door to. You kind of know who their cousins are. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if they live there for 20, 30, if they live there for 10, 15, 20 years. So they've been sitting there being able to evaluate what's going on within the household or within the kid. Like, so they know, oh, he is getting these sort of grades. Oh, he is going to go to this sort of school. He is doing X, Y, Z. Oh, he was playing sports, or he was into art. Like, they can evaluate that over the course of 10, 15, 20 years. And then they sit there, and when the girl's 23, 24, 25, they tell them, what else is there to need to know? You need to pull the trigger. Like, the kid that, like, you live next, your best friend lived next door to him for 20 years. What else is there for you to know about him?
Correct. And it's more about like there's no version of pro black for that situation. Like no, like you couldn't transfer it and say, "Oh, okay, cool. They're pro white." No, they're pro winner. They're pro
Yeah,
productive. They're pro. You know what I'm saying? You know what makes sense. You know what I mean? Especially for the daughters. And I'm trying to like remember how many girls were there. Was it like two little girls? Or was it like one
it
girl
was
boy?
4 girls.
So four girls, but again, it's just like if I have a daughter, I want my daughter to be with a winner. I'm not necessarily concerned with the race. I want her to be a respectable person, certainly, no criminal path, no nothing ridiculous, but a productive male, a winner nonetheless. And I think that with us, of which you stated time and time again, we have an affinity for like keeping it black at the expense of production, you know. And it's a recipe for disaster because it's like, oh, okay, well, if I'm a guy and I'm productive, I'm in tech, IT, engineering, whatever, and I'm making, your 90, your 100 or whatever, and I'm looking for a wife, I should just be looking for a woman who's going to fit my particular thing. And that woman should be looking for a man who is productive so that we can move along, you know what I mean? And keep this thing going. But
Well,
yeah,
that's another thing too. Is none of these women got married to these guys when they were making the money we're talking about. They
oh,
married. That's another thing is too.
that was
Again,
it.
yeah,
Wow.
no, they were in on the ground floor.
Yep, which is why, and I don't know if it was you or Ed. You know what I'm saying? It probably was you. I think it was Ed. Now that I think about it, that's why white women, what I mean, or women from other races, essentially feel more entitled to their man's resources when there is a split because it's starting from 22, 23. You know what I'm saying? When the
Yeah.
man is not making as much money as he eventually makes, but they do invest on the ground floor. They do and know how to pick a winner because they understand what a winner looks like because they came up in the winner circle. They already know. It's like, oh, he's on track to do this. Like the I like I was having a conversation with one of my brother's friends. Well, I wasn't having a conversation. My brother had the conversation with him, and then he brought the conversation to me. And he knows typically those kind of conversations I love to have. You know what I mean? I'm a debater. I love debating. What's up, though, Alan Stranger? You know what I'm saying? And so he said, black women, of course, black women are the most educated. You know what I'm saying? Why are they so, the least married? And I think he posed the question like it shouldn't be that way. But this is my thing. You're in an institution, whereas productive men probably exist. I ask women all the time. I went to a tech school. I went to Michigan Tech, and Nesby was there. You know what I mean? Nesby is
Mhm.
National Society of Black Engineers.
I got a funny story about Desby.
Yeah,
I keep
yeah,
going.
okay, we'll keep that. Put a pin in that because I want to hear that. But so I'm going there, and all of Nesby for the most part was just men. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because tech is typically what men pick, more so than women. Now there are a couple women there. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, the couple of women that were the three women that were there are women that I went to high school with as well. But typically, if you're going to a school, is any kind of engineering or whatever, you're gonna have Nesby, different chapters, different sectors, whatever, whatever. It makes no sense to me that our women are going to college and they're not finding any productive man, any, and then they're leaving the school to do whatever they want to do. You know what I'm saying? Be it work on their career, hot girl summer, whatever the hell they want to do, and not even picking a productive man from the group of dudes that are there that are bred to be productive men because they're in their third or fourth year. They're on the last leg of whatever it is that they're gonna be, and all you have to do is say that one and be kind to them and be kind to him, make his meals, sex, I would imagine on some level, and there's your husband, you know, and they don't do it. They don't pull the trigger. It makes absolutely no sense. So if I'm to believe that they're the most educated, at least they're not the most practical because it would make sense to pick somebody of your echelon, of your ilk. You know what I mean? Because I can't find a man on my level, that kind of thing. They're there. Your level is there, and you're starting, but they want the guy that's ready made. Thus, they don't pick them on the ground floor, and they wait till 30, 29, 30, and then that guy's already who he is, and then they don't get him.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so it was very interesting in terms of, you know, hearing how the my neighbor said, "Oh, the boy, they're so handsome."
Mhm.
That is just, again, that means it's again, offhanded comment. They could just be being friendly, but that means that basically means what they're basically telegraphing is, hey, you know what? If my daughter wants to take a run at them, they're okay with it, and their kids are 4 or 5 years old, and they're
Yeah.
already they're already kind of like, hey, what? They don't see anything wrong with it
But
at this.
it's smart, but it's smart, and it's smart because you ensure your daughter's security. You ensure her safety. You ensure that when you give her away, there's a person that comes from a good family that is going to obviously give your daughter the things that you gave her, and then it's a smooth transition. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Barring any ridiculousness. I mean, personalities. Whatever
yeah.
personality your kid's gonna have. I mean, your kids are 6 and 8, I think, or something like that. But
7 and 5 year
seven and
book.
five,
Yeah,
but that's the thing. It's like their personalities will come out and how they act as adults, whatever, barring anything ridiculous. And you're a good dude. I imagine you're gonna raise good boys, but barring any of that, your kids are gonna be productive. Your sons are gonna be productive. So it's like it makes all the sense in the world for them to forego being pro-white or whatever the hell and just say, yeah, he's a productive guy. I want that to continue. You know, yeah, so yeah. But continue. Your Nesby story I want to hear. Whenever
So
you're
I went to Wayne State. Shout out Wayne State Warriors. I wasn't there when they were Charters. So
artist.
Nes so Nesby in the Society of Black Accountants were doing a event when I was at Wayne State,
Mhm.
and there was a couple girls who lived in my dorm. I used to party with them all the time, and so we were like, yeah, let's. I was like, hey, they're having an event. You guys want to go, right? It just because I knew like two guys. I wasn't an engineer or an accountant, believe it or not.
Mm.
I was like, you guys want to go to the event? They're like, oh, we gotta see da da da. They had like this. They had to give me a whole run around. You know how people are when they're like 2021. You're always hoping there's something else better to do, right?
Right.
So what ends up happening is comes to like the day of or the day before. I'm like, oh, are you guys going to go or what? They're like, no, actually, we got tickets to an album release party, right? It was for some dude who had like a billboard on the side of a bus here in Detroit for his album release party at like Club Envy or something like that, or Envy or Good Life Lounge. I'm really dating how long ago this was.
I know.
People,
I was about to say.
right?
You didn't say River Rock, so you're all
Yeah,
good.
no, I didn't say River Rock. I'm not as old as you, so
Thank
uh,
you. Thank you.
right. So they're having like his album release party, and so they're like, we have tickets we have VIP to go to that, right? And
Mhm.
so mind you, so these girls have VIP. I mean, they were nice looking, but they weren't like top shelf. I mean, they hang out with me, you know what I mean? Like they're these like some, they hang out, like sometimes they catch a ride to parties with me sometimes. So these weren't like dime pieces. These are just probably some above average looking chicks. They're probably adjustable sixes, maybe an eight or something like that.
Right.
So what ends up happening is, so they have VIP at the party, at this album release party, and they're like, we're gonna go to that, right? And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, well, first I'm like, oh, well, I'll go with you guys. I'm like, well, how much are the tickets? They're like, well, you got to pay because you're a dude. It was like $80, right?
Oh wow.
I'm like, I'm in college. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to pay $80. I had a job, but I'm like, I'm not paying that. So I don't. So they go to that, and so the funny thing, looking back at it, is, mind you, we go to Wayne State. Like, what do you think was the better return on investment?
Cer-
which one? Which
Certainly the conference, but I mean,
it was
I,
like it was a little cocktail hour. It was like $20, right? Um, they went to album release party. I went to a conference. I was in a meeting for a bank to get a loan, and someone who was at that cocktail party was in the meeting, and they recognized me. Talking about 14 years after the fact.
wow, wow. That's and that's the thing. Like again, I was even talking to my brother because I told you I'm back in school, and just like name recognition, like you know what I mean. Like my last name is Perkins. Name recognition got me a recommendation just off of, again, name recognition. I said my last name was Perkins. One of the instructors there, his last name was Perkins. He was like, "Hey," and we're talking again first about family. Like, where's your family from? Where's your family from? Whatever, whatever. And then we get into the conversation about, why am I here? You know what I'm saying? What am I looking forward to doing? What do I want out of the experience? Whatever, whatever. And it's just like, because I'm there and I took a little extra time after school as opposed to doing whatever the hell I was gonna do, which is nothing. You forge. I mean, it's probably gonna be nothing. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, keep it
you
real, right?
you yeah, you forge a relationship that is about business that can lend itself to something else. And it's about just making the decision to say, well, this is probably the return on investment, which is always that I love that term, the ROI. Uh, but return on investment in that conversation versus whatever I was gonna do it's clear. It's like one is obviously better than the other because that recommendation or that association helps me further down the line than whatever they have. I mean, if I got a call from a chick or something like that, I mean, that's nice, but I mean, that's
Well,
probably not gonna.
hey, that chick though, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
I mean, hey, she could be the next Miss Perkins. You never know. You never know. And then I come to your party the next time I come to a party, I show up. I got a nice wife, and I can fit in with the with the crew. I can fit in with the crew, and everybody has a
yeah,
wife. Go over there and kick it with the ladies. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. She go, yeah, come over and hang out. So then you say kick it with the lady. So next thing, so the lady who's a doctor, so everyone knows who hangs around, especially in Mike's algorithm, which is probably the Edward and Bernard algorithm. They know that
Yes.
I do the real estate stuff. So I have a house I'm in the middle of renting out. My old house, we moved out of it, and we're in our new house and everything. That's part of the reason why we had the party. We're kind of like doing our opening, saying, "Hey, we're in the house. We're, you know, guys come over, start hanging out, right?" So cool. So in our old house, we're getting it. We basically got it prepped to like start renting it to medical students and medical residents. So the guy who's the lady who's a doctor who's married to the director at an auto company, she's an attending at a major teaching hospital. And I said, yeah, we're trying to rent rooms. She said, really? She said, okay. She said, I have I said, I have residents who need housing all the time. Give me the information, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to post it on our board at the hospital because they need housing all the time. They're always telling me they need housing because I have housing available in multiple places that the residents will be available in. So again, if I'm in there acting crazy, if my wife is in there acting crazy, if my kids are in there acting crazy, is she going to do that? And that's what
No.
we're talking about. When you pick your wife, right? So if your wife doesn't want to be uh friendly, right? She wants to have an attitude. She gets triggered by things that she might view as a microaggression or whatever word they're using these days, right? She wants you
Microaggressions, sir. Sir, you're gonna get me canceled before I get to even. I ain't got the 500 subs yet. You gonna get me canceled?
yeah.
Go
What
ahead,
you,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to say, yeah. If they're going to be disagreeable, not friendly, just if and this could apply to any sort of woman, right? Are you going to bring that sort of woman into the fold? So think about it. Because my wife behaved right, right? I have an
Mhm.
opportunity to make $5,000 a month extra just because she could behave correctly at an Ohio State Michigan football game.
And you know the thing was is that I immediately like when I got the invite, I'm like I kind of know okay, there are probably gonna be some guys there who have, you know what I'm saying, who are directors of something or own of something or real estate. I just assumed that was gonna be. I didn't know that their wives were coming, but immediately when I saw,
I didn't know either. Loki, I didn't know that either. They showed
okay,
up.
yep. Oh, so me and you on the same page.
Yeah, yep.
What happened to see that interaction with you and the wife, the residents, and all of that? That was flipping as subtle as it was. It was very subtle. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't some crazy. It didn't require a TV camera or anything like that. That was flipping amazing because it was so like normal and it was like it was a and it will work out for both parties. It's like, yeah, I have residents that always need to get they don't want to live way out there, way out to where they were living, and then have to drive all the way back downtown or whatever, you know what I'm saying, wherever the
Hmm.
the actual hospital is. They don't want to have to do that. So they would rather have housing that was closer. And then you're saying, well, yeah, I have this, and it's just like the connection was just like it was easy, it was seamless. There was no and two, like I say, hospitality was great. Wife, you know what I'm saying? Great. You mean just very hospitable, pleasure to be around. Even cracked a couple of jokes, laughed at my corny jokes. It was a very easy situation. It's like, of course, there's gonna be a deal or two done there because everybody's comfortable. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's enjoying themselves. Everybody's having a beer or whatever. Something's gonna happen here, and it happened immediately. We didn't. I think that was like what the second quarter or something
Yeah,
like that. It,
yeah,
it, it happened immediately. Like that. That was and it's like that's how stuff happens. It doesn't take going. You don't have to go to a meeting or a conference or whatever. It can be an Ohio State Michigan game, whereas Michigan kicks the butt of
y-
Ohio State. It could be that. You know what I mean? By the way, that happened. I'm
yeah.
saying,
And then
oh,
the one guy from the who comes to the monthly meetup, him and the other guy went to the same business school, and they were talking, and they got into the other information because the one guy works in advertising, and the other guy he has some stuff he does where he doles,
yeah. He does the commercials in there. Yeah, and that's and let's take a small break. Brother Sir Tice in the building. What up? Met him at the last Detroit meetup that we had. Wonderful brother. You know what I mean? Cool. Another normal brother that just does normal. I mean, exceptional, but normal with regards to his behavior and you know what I mean. Just cool guy. It's good every now and again to meet some of the subscribers and everything. So yeah, definitely. But you could continue. The two guys they went to Michigan Business School, right?
yeah, they both went to Michigan Business School. So they're sitting there, obviously, connection, they're chopping it up, and they're going to connect at the later date for something never met before. But for whatever reason, they start chopping up, and now they want to go do something. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be just, they're just going to add each other on LinkedIn. You don't know what they're going to do, right? But
Right.
either way, again, people being friendly, people being uh uh want to be helpful. That's another thing is too. When you're playing at a certain level, people are not jealous or like feel like you gotta beat people down because you understand there's enough for everybody, right? Like what like people are doing whatever. Like so here's a case in point. The guy who owns the landscaping business, he he like takes care of all the so I have a bunch of trees. I have like ton of trees in my backyard. Leaves are falling down everywhere. We have the leaves fall every fall here. Because he owns a landscaping business, he has his workers over here clearing out my backyard. It probably saved me $3,000 because he has work, and he just did that just cause I live next door, and just because
Mhm.
we're friendly to him. You know the last people who live there, he didn't do that for him.
Wow. I mean, I heard y'all had a brief conversation about the last people. I mean, well, at least they did, because you weren't obviously there when that person they were there.
Yeah,
But he was like, the story you said it didn't seem very fond of him, But but it's really a matter of just being kind, being cordial, being what I'm saying, inviting, hospitable, those things, and those things go a long way. Well, I always say, and I like to call it culture X. I really don't like calling it black culture, but culture X, it really doesn't breed that. You know what I mean? It doesn't breed that at all. It doesn't breed, like you can like your wife, she needed to get more chairs. She needed to bring more uh snacks and stuff. And it's like you literally had to tell her, no, honey, we're good. We're good, honey. Thank you. Like
yeah,
it was like she needed to be helpful. It wasn't a matter of her. She wasn't a slave. She wasn't like, being oppressed or anything. She was being a wife. She was being
yeah.
a mom. She was playing her role, which was wonderful. And like I say, it was seamless. Didn't seem forced. Um, everything seemed like it was going the way that it. And so I'm like, something's gonna happen. And immediately, like I say, immediately something happened, because it's just the way that things go. It doesn't take some big meeting or some camera in
Yeah.
front of people's faces for those things to happen. That was, like I say, that was an education in what those situations are, like how that deals get done, like saying deals get done on the golf course, that kind of deal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's just like you think about it, it's like, well, yeah, like it's guys at golf. Obviously, it's an expensive game. Typically, dudes who are in there have some money. Deals get done on the golf course. Deals also get done at family get-togethers. At
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
at Ohio State, Michigan games or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that happens as well at get-togethers. Your neighbors and your associates, your affiliates, the people that are part of your special interest groups, whatever. Like those things happen all the time because they're just there. Who else you gonna do have these interactions with? The people that you know. Yeah, but what was the thing that I was thinking about? What would be that's what I was thinking about. I don't even know if you want to go here, but
We'll go
what
there. We'll go there. I've been drinking for a couple hours. I will go there.
okay, cool, cool, cool. Well, let's do it. What do you think would be some of the average um Keishan, if you will?
Oh jeez.
What what do you think would be some of the missteps? Like, for example, your wife, it seems like she needed to bring more chairs, she needed to bring more snacks, she needed to be helpful. You know what I mean? She it's a few times she asked me, "Do you need anything else?" You know what I'm saying? There's some more dip over here, some more chips over here. Do you want this? Do you need this? What do you think would be the typical Keishan? Let's say if Keisha was observing, what do you think would be her observation in that situation?
The observation she would have in this situation of that my wife wasn't watching the game. She didn't is she was just hanging out with all the random kids who were there. They wanted to do finger painting. She was sitting there doing finger painting with all of them. They
Mhm.
were there was only we had some balloons. There was like four balloons in the house, and more kids wanted balloons. She ran to the store and got some more. They all wanted balloons, so they all got balloons. They were all blowing them up because they all wanted to hit balloons around in the living room.
Right.
Uh, it, it, just the what the difficulty would be is let's say I talked about when me and my wife first started dating. She dropped off my homework, right, and just because that was helpful. The thing was, what adults are. congregating and talking and hanging out. And she's not, first of all, she's not really interested in football. She doesn't really care about it, right? So we get that. But hey, hanging out with the kids, just doing something with them, she's okay with that. And she didn't feel like she was being excluded. She didn't feel like she was being exploited, or someone was going to, or she was being, someone's demanding something out of her. It was like, what else are we supposed to do? We're hanging out 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
hanging out. Like, I'm hanging out with my kids, finger painting. And she works. My wife works, so it wasn't like she's too exhausted, right? she,
Right,
she,
right, right.
she's not, she could, she could muster up a couple, some energy for 2 or 3, for like 4 hours, and finger paint with some kids, and with a bunch of kids that weren't hers. And the kids were running around, you know, upstairs in their playroom and everything. So that's another thing is too, like, what would be the struggle? Just being useful, the concept of being useful, and not just because of it's the thing to do, not because there's going to be an immediate. So for instance, in this case, we were useful and nice, and we have some money on the table. But let's say that doesn't happen, right? She
Hmm.
would still do that if she would still do that event again. In fact, you know what? Someone asked the people next door, because we had a bunch of leftovers. My wife didn't want to serve leftovers. She's like, "Do not serve these people leftovers. They just came to our house." The people next door, they said, actually, we have an idea, because there's a community newsletter. He said we should host a party every year. He said, especially if Michigan, Ohio State they play each other the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
Do a Thanksgiving leftovers party. We invite people from the neighborhood and everything. We both do our houses, and everyone bring their leftovers, and it's a party. Now for him, it's good for him, because he has a landscaping business with 200 employees. These are customers. He can just get more customers. He puts his little banner up, so and then me, he just knows I like to drink, so he knows I'll be down to do
It's certain, but this is the thing. What would Keisha's observation be, and what would be her reaction? What would she report if she was the one? If it was instead of me, if instead of me there, Keisha
Oh,
was there.
geez.
What
Keisha
would
was there.
she what would she be saying about it, and how would she observe it? What would be her observation?
If it was the worst possible situation, they would say that, I was grinning and cooning for white people, or for non-black people, right? Being
Okay.
friendly, right? That's like the worst way, right? The
Yes.
the 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 next thing would probably be, his wife wasn't even watching the game, and she was running around getting people food, and playing with the kid, and doing stuff for the kids, and she ran up to the store, and this and this and this, and I barely saw her. I saw everybody else's wife sitting there hanging out, and she was out running doing other stuff. And then they would say probably something about, you know um I don't know, they probably make fun of my, we didn't have maybe what she wanted to drink, because even though we had a lot of liquor, we didn't maybe have what she wanted. So,
Hennessy.
huh? No, we had some Hennessy. I had a
I
I had a
you know you
I
did
had I
you
had I
did
had the big bottle. I had the big bottle.
Yeah, for the just in case. I did a IPA, a nice IPA, because I do beer, but I don't really do beer like that. So I did a nice IPA just to keep it to keep it on the regular. You know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't do Hennessy.
Yeah, I think with someone who's a Keishan, we'll say that someone who's a Keishan, what they would struggle with is that, uh, just being friendly and nice to people, just because, and not just say, my wife, just say you didn't want to be bothered, just be nice to people, 'cause even though you don't feel like doing it, there's a value to that. Because the thing is, so, and I know this sounds bad, I'll admit it, I'm a proponent of respectability politics. I know in a lot of cases, when I run into a lot of people, like, I not sound funny, I wouldn't be surprised I'm the only black person's house these people will go into in the next year.
Yeah, it sounds about right. That sounds
Right?
about right. Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm aware of that. So I need to behave and present accordingly. Um, I can imagine, and mind you, these people they're not they don't live under rocks. I mean, these people work in corporate. They're not. This isn't like the 1950s. They're not. Who's the dude who stood in the schoolhouse door? This is they're not Strom Thurmond or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
way. In no way. They're very nice, normal people. Okay,
Hmm.
but there's still divides within society, right? So they don't interact with black people like that all the time. I know they don't. I mean, they just I mean, I can tell when I go to people's houses that they don't. So, because frankly, I go to people's houses and there's no other black people there. So it's like obviously they knew another black person they would be there, right? So,
Right. That would be yes. Yes. That.
right, obviously they knew. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Um.
yeah. Keep
So,
going. Keep going.
so
My bad.
what would so understanding that when you're in these situations, you're always performing. There's always performance going on, and the idea of yes, there's times to let loose, but then there's times that the cameras are always on, you're always on performance, and you're always being evaluated. And I think that someone who's like a Keishan would say, why can't I, or even guys who want to be real ninjas, right?
Yeah,
A con-
A Keishan identified male.
yeah, Keishan, yeah, the concept that you're always being evaluated. I think that would be too much. I think so. This may be a commentary on black people who are not familiar with these sort of situations. You're always being evaluated, and you have to be okay with that. Because the thing is, if you know you're being evaluated, be comfortable with how you get evaluated, and you can still be yourself. I was still myself,
Hmm.
okay, um, but I was myself in a way that would make sure that they would not like that. I would still it was still come on. I was myself in my own home. I was myself in my own home, but I would not be myself. I would not behave like I was just like if I was hanging with Mike and a couple of my buddies and the game was on. We would
Hmm.
act it a little differently, right?
Right.
But
Right. Right.
I would not. It would still would not have been that far away from what we were doing.
And
Maybe.
a lot of times too, what I think that people do is that they tell themselves that being the worst possible version of themselves is keeping it real, to the point where they're presenting themselves as hold on one second. Let me do something real quick.
Let me stop. I gotta run to the restroom real quick. Give me 1 second.
All right, no problem.
You can monologue.
Yeah. So, what was I saying? What was I saying? Well, let me just let's see here. It said, I'm going to say this is more of a social economic class thing than it is a Keishan or Dewan thing. I agree 100%, Sir Tice. The problem is a lot of times that we see race as the divide, and everybody else sees class as the divide. And what I saw when I was at the get together was not a divide, you know what I'm saying, but people who recognize class more so than they recognize race, because there were, obviously Asian, there, with Christian's wife and an Indian couple, black people there, obviously, because I was there and I'm black. Another couple of black people that were also there, and then white people, So it really was more so about um, their class than it was about their race, and that then makes you comfortable. Let me unmute you. Then they were more comfortable as to have like a conversation, have drinks, have talk. I mean, root for the game, high five each other. You know what I'm saying? It was more of a class thing, and we don't recognize in there are two things, and I think it's either BGS or Edward. You know what I'm saying? I usually associate what they say together. I usually smash it together. Um, but the two things that black people don't really talk about is culture and class. Just never talk about culture in class. They only talk about culture as it relates to food or as it relates to music or struggle. It's never class, and it's never class. They never talk about class. I mean, ever. And those things are very very important if you want to have a community that's based on productivity. It can't just be race. Race is at a certain point it becomes a hindrance. Because some people you got to let go, even though they are skin folk. You know it's fine, but it's just like, so when we say Keishan or Dewan, it's that is a class thing, in and of itself. Because when you say Keisha, that doesn't mean every black woman. That just means the ones that identify with the Keishan ideology or Dewan ideology, Devante ideology. Because obviously every black guy's not like that. I mean, you're looking at Christian, myself, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't identify with Keishan identity. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a Keishan identified male. You know what I'm saying? And of course, he's not either. It's
What
never
are you
about
talking about? Did you see that girl in belly? I'm kidding. That's a joke.
Keisha Propelli. That's your boo thing. Nah, but a lot
20
of
years ago, not
yeah,
now.
yeah, a lot of the things that we talk about, we say race a lot of times. We say race, but it's really a class issue. So I think we're around about talking about class, but we don't know how to identify it as class ever. And certainly we don't talk about culture, because that's just kind of off limits, you know what I mean, to talk about, But yeah, so I certainly agree with you, Sir Tice. You know what I'm saying? But did you want to jump in, Christian?
No, we, yeah, you're 100% right. We talk about class and culture in a way of, uh, we think we should be playing to the lowest common denominator. And in that situation, like you were in on Saturday, how do you think that would have played? Whether it was a black male or a black woman, and he or she was talking about or behaving with certain things, how would have people looked at that?
Like I think anybody who's a fly on the wall of, if Keisha is a fly on the wall of I mean, maybe not Dewan or Devante, you know what I'm saying, probably to a lesser extent, but if a woman is who identifies with the Keishan ideas and ideologies, if she's looking at that, she's offended the whole way through. Which is what I was waiting for you to say. She's offended. She's like, I can't believe that they have these women just tending to the kids. Why can't y'all? You know, I mean, y'all are watching the game. Why can't we watch what we want to watch? You know, I'm just serving y'all. Y'all ain't. It's one of these things where it's just like everybody plays a role. You win at the end of this. At the end of this thing, whatever we're doing, you win. You're not in servitude. You're not being oppressed. You're playing a role in this situation, and you need to play this role to the T, so that we can have a good circle, a good social circle. You know what I mean, of productive people. If not for just the camaraderie of being around productive people, if no deals or no anything monetary value resources, if nothing comes of it, fine. I want to have a neighborhood whereas I am a good neighbor and I'm useful. I have utility, functionality with my neighbors. You know what I mean? So that if I need something or they need something, I can be there for them. I just don't see that as a thing. You know what I mean? Like, people don't love their neighbor, you know, like that. You know. Oh, and
Yeah.
what up, Jackie? I heard the rumors, Jackie. You need to address that rumor that I heard in the streets. Jackie, address the rumors. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. There's rumors in these streets. She started the rumor. She said, her sense of humor.
So here's the question: could Jackie survive on Saturday?
Jackie would survive on Saturday because I think, being put through the ringer in the manosphere kind of makes it to where she already knows. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So she would, I mean, like, she would fall in line because it's just no other thing. You know what I mean? Like, Jackie already knows. And I think she already gets it.
Okay.
At least I would hope. I would hope that this thing is not an act. Her feminine voice and stuff like that. I hope that she doesn't get around people when it's like, what? I ain't doing that. She doesn't have Hennessy Newport voice. Like, I didn't know you sound like that, Jackie. I introduced you to my mama. And now you sound like Keisha. Nah. But I think she would get it. Ultimately, I think she would get it. I
No,
think
yeah,
what
Jackie would have been. Yeah, Jackie would have survived all right. She probably would have been a little shy and kind of probably scared to speak up. I would imagine she.
she seems like that. I mean, she seems like that type. You know what I'm saying? Soft spoken, not really, too overt in any of her like mannerisms or whatever. Smiles a lot, obviously. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't.
Which I can get you by too.
That's what I'm saying. That it's not. This is not hard. This is not rocket science. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's really just you showing up and being a kind person. Again, everybody that was kind. You know what I mean? It just everybody that was kind. I didn't feel slighted at all. I mean, they could have thought the most horrible things about me, and I wouldn't have known. It's just like, look, I mean, they're not treating me poor. Nobody's saying horrible things to me. Everybody's being pretty kind. Thank you. Appreciate the hospitality. Handshakes all around,
Hmm.
and I appreciated it. It was a nice situation. And like I said, I don't feel like I necessarily like blended in, but certainly I didn't stick out. I don't think I stuck out like, it was just like, who's this guy? Like, why is he like I think I
Yeah.
was able to kind of blend in, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, I invited you over because you're a sports nut like I am, so you
Yeah.
fit it in. Um. Yeah. So the biggest thing that I was just taking in that whole situation is that even when we talk about, you want to be, whether it's the men or the women, they talk about, I want to have a life like this. I want to be in this sort of thing. They understand the situations that they're going to be putting themselves in. Like, do they actually understand that you have to navigate that, whether you're hosting or you go to your neighbor's house and you're the guest? You got to be able to play through that for 3, 4 hours. Can you do that? Can your kids go into that situation and behave the way that they need to in the appropriate fashion? So that way people don't say, oh, you know there they go, hey, they hearing, but they still, that's how they still are, right? Can you still operate in those? Do you really understand what you're signing up for
Yeah,
when
can
you're
you
getting when you get into these situations?
and can you overcome like because again respectability politics, um certainly understanding that when you go and you're in these circles you don't just represent you represent what they think of your particular group. Now that group doesn't necessarily have to be black. It could be an age thing. It could be this person is an athlete. I may think that they're not bright. You know what I mean? It could be race could be an issue. You know what I'm
Race.
saying? But yeah,
I'm
your
I'm a military vet, right? They
certainly.
if I was doing something like, yeah, he's a military vet. You know how those guys are, right?
Yep. And it's like it's identity politics involved, whereas you have to kind of know that you represent your group when you're out. And for the people who don't, um, who one, I mean, you can not want it to be that way, but it really doesn't matter. It's kind of like that's the way it's going to be. You see people in groups, you identify a lot of time with stereotypes until somebody shows you something different. But like, would they even respect that? Would they even respect the? I know that if they've seen four black people, before in their life, and they acted a certain way, can I overcome that? You know what I mean? I know that if they've seen four or five athletes, or they have, they went to college and they saw a bunch of dumb jocks. Will I be able to overcome that in my life? You know what I'm saying? Or in this interaction? Like, it's so much to overcome, but it's like, it's easy if you understand that you just got to be a kind person. You're not trying to, it's not slavery. You know what I mean? Again, it's not slavery. You're not trying to win over massa. You're
Yeah,
just trying to, have a drink and have a good time.
yeah. So one of the things I always remember about when I was in the military was, I remember like the staff sergeants and stuff like that were always so mean, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, why are these people like E5s, E6s? Why are they so mean? Like, they don't have to be mean like that. But then I remember the people who were like E8s, E9s, or like people who were like full bird colonels, generals. They were always cool. They weren't upset. You know why? I'm like E2. What what beef they got with me?
Right.
you know, like they don't need to be mean to me. I'm just some dude, puttering around base. I'm like, I ain't nobody. Why
Mhm.
are they gonna? And so I think sometimes what I'm trying to say is people have to recognize that most people, when you are in a position of you're not trying to just struggle off trying to get off the mat. People don't have to be like that. You don't have to act like that because there's no point because of it's not advantageous because of you realize as you go up that you're going to need someone you're going to need people eventually for things that you don't even know about. You can't even think about because of being able to pick up the phone and get something from somebody is so important lots of times because you never know like what people can do for you or help you get, and so just being cordial uh can get you a lot of places. um because I've seen it plenty of times where especially like in software, I've seen a lot of people sign major contract software deals just because of you know people liked them and or they were just cordial enough with the person who was going to make the deal. So
Yeah, and and then it also speaks to, and me and my brother talk about this all the time. It's like it's the who you know, and it's the what you know and who you know. Um, the who you know can kind of help you to skip steps that you couldn't imagine, that you could. It just helps you to skip steps, whereas you would never. I don't know. I think it's more of an uphill battle when you just got to go on what you know.
yeah,
Connections kind of make help you to skip steps, or help stuff to kind of like helps to expedite the process, you know, a lot more seamlessly than the rough. I know this, so I have to go here and do it all from scratch. I mean, I'm sure, like with your real estate dealings, I'm pretty sure that you have some connections somewhere to get into somewhere to have, you have some people. You didn't just like come in and bully the whole game. I mean, I would imagine
no,
that's not what you did. You know what I mean?
no, that's not what happened.
Right.
I told someone actually how I got my most valuable and profitable property. It was on some fluky relationship that I had.
Right. Right.
And yeah, and it led into that. But yeah, but the biggest thing, when we say can Keisha do it, we say Keisha, but it's just not Keisha, but it's like the woman that you decide to have in your life. Whatever it is that you want to do, is she going to uh add to whatever else it is that you're doing so that way it can help you guys get to where you both want to go, right? Because some people say, like they say, this train goes one way and that's forward, right? Is
Hmm.
the woman in your life doing that? Is she making sure the train is if you're the engineer making sure the train is going down the track, you're shoving the coal in you're shoveling in the coal. Is she making sure that the skids are greased to make sure they can keep rolling easily? That's the type of thing that you have to ask yourself. And when people have certain mentalities, it is counter to that concept because it becomes about what it is it for them, right?
Hmm.
What is it for them and not what it is for the group. And so it's this weird dynamic, right? You have to do what's best for the group, but you also have to do what's best for you individually, and you have to always weigh that out. Like, so there's things that I want to do, right? Like, for instance, I would really love to take a management consulting job right now and make an extra 40 50 thousand dollars. But then would that be best for the group? My wife would be by herself at home every day. My kids wouldn't I wouldn't be around my kids every day. Is
Hmm.
that worth the extra money? No, that's not necessarily good for the group, right? But
Right.
there will be a time I will make that decision, and I have it in my head when I'll make that decision, right? But that's the thing, like when we say can Keisha do it, we're not necessarily talking about Keisha. We're talking about can people who have uh, I a thing of where they're not in service to the goal, right? That's what it's about. Keisha is not in service to the goal. Dewan or Pookie or Ray Ray is not in service to the goal. They're in service to whatever is going to get them through to today or tomorrow, and that's what they're in service to. And that's
Mhm.
what we want to make sure people do not uh, that we want. That's what we want to discourage. So when I had that party on Saturday, yeah, it was nice because our house is done being renovated and everything. But in a lot of ways too, it was a marketing of, hey, we're here in the neighborhood. Welcome to our home. This is our family, and when you deal with us, this is how we're going to do things. And that left an impression on people, and that
Certainly.
was the goal.
Yeah, certainly, 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 man. And again, you know, um, like every time you're on, like I said, when you're on Ed Anderson, when you're on, you know, Bernard's show, um, it's always insight, and it's small little detail, little nuances that, even myself, in my old age, um, that I haven't really seen, and it's just an education, and it really for me, it helps me to know what kind of person I am because I mean, I am older than you, but I'm not gonna, not at all. I can't big boy you, in no way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Because I'm
You
older than
could
you.
you could on the court though.
Yeah, I'd probably give you buckets, but but
Don't let me lose the weight. If I lose the weight, you might you hey, I used to give people buckets when I was skinny.
it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. I mean, just as a thing, I have my thing, you have your thing. I let you have your thing. This is my thing. I would give you buckets, and I don't want to. And you're a nice guy. You're a nice
Yeah.
guy, but the buckets would happen. But like it always is impressive that even the simplest things, the simplest like nuances, you kind of like bring those to light. And especially like I say, when you're on Edge show, because Edge just lets you go. And Bernard does let you go to a certain extent too, even though his show is a little more structured, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course,
Mhm.
Ed's is more of like a hangout and he'll just shut it down and let you talk, you know what I mean? But it's always just very impressive that you kind of notice these class nuances, that I'm pretty sure the Keisha identified males and Keishans don't get. And it's so simple. You know what I mean? Identity politics, respectability politics, all of that. It's just like everything is kind of baked into having a successful, productive family. And yeah, man, it's always very, very, very interesting and very, very eye opening to have you in. But what I'm gonna do is because I got to get out of here. We got into an hour. Give me some last thoughts, closing remarks on the subject that we are talking about here.
So, the question is, can Keisha do it? Probably not. And that's okay. Just don't date Keisha, date Brandy.
Dave Brandy. Dave Brandy. That's probably the best thing. Do not pick Keisha, pick Brandy. Don't date Keisha Coles. Date Brandy Norwood. Is that the only Brandy we know?
uh I don't know over the last 25 years is that the best example, but we're going to go with that cuz that's what her image was for a long time. We're going to go with
Very
that
much
one.
so. Cinderella Brandy, right?
Yeah. Hey, you
Yeah.
know what? I remember I was just listening to the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack like what was it, like 2 months ago,
Hmm.
and I saw Brandy. I was like, "Dang, Brandy was cute back in the day."
She was. She was. She was very cute. She was very cute.
I remember when we were kids, we used to always go back and forth on was Brandy or Monica better? Was Brandy or Monica cuter?
More attractive. I said Monica, but if you remember back then, the short hair,
Short hair was yeah.
what it was the thing. It was Nia Long, it was Monica, it was Holly Berry, Tony Braxton, Jada Pinkett, whatever. Like it was all of them. What up, son? It was all of them like in one, like Voltron woman. You know what I'm saying? And it was like that was the attractive thing. So I think she had a clear advantage with the hair. They both were kind of, on the darker side, both around the same age. I mean, I don't think anyone had the advantage, but yeah, it was probably Monica. But don't date Monica either.
Don't just don't date Monica either.
Yeah, nah, don't date Monica either. Don't date Monica's, don't date Keisha Coles. This is yeah, but we're gonna get out of here, man. Thank you very much, Christian, for coming through, and also too sparking the conversation because really this is a a Christian like kind of creation with regards to the topic and everything. He immediately said, "I got a topic," So definitely appreciate you for coming through,
Yep.
and what I'm saying. I got to do more lives, and I got to have you on more often because again, you're what I'm saying, you're like the unsung hero of this kind of thing. You always shooting the stats to everybody. You're always shooting emails of different stories and everything to everybody, and people shout you out even though you don't officially. I mean, you don't have a channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
But
okay. I don't want a
you,
channel.
well, that's good. You don't have to have a channel. Your contribution is still felt throughout the Black Manosphere, and yeah. So we're gonna get out of here. This is Mike Perkins. That's Christian Hutchinson, and we're out.
Michigan by 20 on Saturday.
Yes, yes, again, yes, yes. National champions. Yes, yes.